그럼 발표를 시작해 주시기 바랍니다.
Good morning, police commanders. Today's lecture is Crime Control Theory and Application. Increasing crime is a serious social problem, right? Then how can we reduce crime? Today, I'm going to explain to you very effective and efficient method to reduce crime. Before getting started, let me briefly introduce myself to you. My name is Seo Jun-bae. My rank is Senior Inspector. I have worked as police investigator for 10 years. Currently, I'm a professor at Korean Police Investigation Academy, teaching how to trace illegal money and anti-money laundering method. Okay, let's get started. Today's learning objectives are understanding 3 deterrent values of punishment, understanding the principles of crime control, and lastly, applying crime control theory in the real world. Okay? Social costs of crime are enormous. According to a study, they accounted for 16% of Korea's GDP in 2008. Out of many crimes, kidnapping was the most expensive crime. On average, each person pays 3.3 million won every year due to crime. Then, is punishment the only answer to crime? Right, no. Because prisons use tax revenue, arrests are social costs too. Then, how can we have less crime and less punishment at the same time? This is the starting point of today's lesson. Sounds good? Before we move on to 3 deterrent values of punishment, we need to consider the cause of crime. One attempt to answer this question is economic approach. These people believe that expected benefit of crime is larger than expected loss of punishment. People choose to commit crimes rationally. On the other hand, expected loss of punishment is bigger, then crime can be controlled. Crime control theory is based on this economic approach. In economics, there is rational decision-making theory. People choose to act to maximize their total utility by calculating probability of each case. But does everybody make a choice according to expected utility theory? No, right. Actual choice is different. I will show you that by asking you questions. I need show of your hands, okay? In our situation, there are 2 options. Option A, you have 1/4 chance of winning $400. Option B, you have 100% chance of winning $95. What will you choose? Option A, raise your hand, please. Thank you. Option B, raise your hand. Right, great. Most people prefer to choose option B, even though the expected value of option A is bigger than option B. This time, we are in penalty situation. We have 2 options again. Option A, you have 1/4 chance of paying $400. And option B, you have 100% chance of paying $95. What will you choose? Option A, raise your hand, please. Thank you. Great. Option B, raise your hand, please. Right, great. The more people prefer to choose option A, and we call this certainty effect. And this is very important to understand crime control theory. Even though the punishment is small, if we can make the punishment more certain, then that action can be avoided, can be deterred. Do you understand? Are you following me? Okay. Let's move on to 3 deterrent values. What is deterrence? Deterrence means making someone not want to do something, right? And punishment has 3 deterrent values: swiftness, certainty, and severity. Swiftness means the faster the punishment is, the better to deter crime. And certainty means the more certain the punishment is, the more effective to deter crime. And severity means the harsher the punishment is, the better to deter crime. Are you following me? Okay. On swiftness, there is no controversy. But regarding certainty and severity, there are controversies. But as we have seen in the previous slide, increasing the certainty of punishment is more effective than increasing the severity. And very famous criminologist Beccaria, in his great work on crime and punishment, he drew the same conclusion. In order to control crime, punishment should be swift and certain rather than severe. So he insisted that death penalty should be abolished. Are you following me? Okay. So, in order to increase the certainty of punishment, we need to hire more police officers and install more CCTVs, right? But because of limited police resources, police are usually in police swamping situation. We cannot punish every violations everywhere because there are too many violations. Then how can we allocate resources and increase the certainty of punishment? The answer is dynamic concentration. And I will show you that by probation simulation model. This program was developed by UC Berkeley professors. And each scale stands for 1 probationer. What is probation? Probation means instead of going to jail, you are assigned to community service for a certain period of time. And during that time, you need to obey the rule, probation rule. And 10 by 10, there are 100 probationers this program. And a circle represents you break the rule, but you are not punished. And a slash in a circle stands for you break the rule and you are being punished. And sanction capacity of 8 represents there are 8 police officers. We can punish 8 probationers at each round. Is it clear? Okay, let's see what will happen. Yes. As you see on the screen, the mean violation probability is increasing. That means there are more violations, which means that number of 8 sanction capacity is not enough to control the situation. So the screen becomes redder and redder. So this time, let's change sanction capacity to 20. And let's see what will happen. As you are seeing on the screen, there are more slashes and the mean violation probability is decreasing. That means 20 police officers are enough to control the situation, right? But increasing the number of police officers is not a smart way. We need to pay more tax. So how can we have different outcome compared to first one with just the original number of 8? The answer is by changing sanction rule from random to sequential. Let's see what will happen. As you are see on the screen, the first row and second row and third row are punished. No matter what, the bottom part becomes redder and redder. Sequential means concentration. So the mean violation probability is decreasing. And with the same number of 8 police officers, we have controlled the situation by simply changing sanction rule from random to sequential. This is how dynamic concentration works. If we can concentrate our power, then the certainty of punishment will increase. Then we can control the situation. Are you following me? Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Oh, yeah. Okay, the next principles of crime control is positive feedback and tipping point. Positive feedback means a situation goes one direction continuously through self-reinforcing mechanism. For example, a bad situation is getting worse and worse, vicious cycles. Or a good situation is getting better and better, virtuous cycles. And tipping point is the moment of critical change. After a situation reaches tipping point, we have either extreme, broken window situation, or all obeying the law situation. Does everybody know what broken window situation is? Okay, leaving broken windows unrepaired in New York Metropolitan Subway made all illegal activities rampant in that area. Remember? And all obeying the law situation is total opposite. And the last principle of crime control is credible threat. This concept is from Nobel Prize winner Thomas Schelling. His famous quote is, "Brute force succeeds when it is used, but effective deterrent threats are never carried out." If we can communicate credible threat to criminals, then actual punishment is not necessary. Isn't it a wonderful idea? Okay, let's move on to a case study. In 2008, I was the captain of Female Affairs Division, which was in charge of prostitution matters. In the middle of the city, there were clustered brothels. And in the brothels, there were more than 500 women were working as a prostitutes. Those girls were enslaved to sell their body because of prepaid money by the pimps. The working girls were usually confined in a hidden room, and they were allowed to take a rest only once a month until they pay off all their debts. Very serious human rights violation, right? Not only that matters, but also we had other problems too. Around these clustered brothels, there were apartment area and there were residential area. So at night, from an apartment window, a family could see drunken men negotiate price with the pimps and the working girls seducing men into buying sex, it definitely decreased the quality of life around this neighborhood. But it was really difficult for the police to eradicate this area because this area already reached the tipping point and in a vicious cycle, right? So my boss at that time decided to terminate this area. So he ordered me to devise a plan. Firstly, we called in the pimps and the working girls to the police station. Stop prostitution. We won't tolerate this time. We could communicate credible threat to these girls and the pimps directly. And we made a campaign with the citizens every night. So the participation of citizens played a crucial role against the crime. And lastly, the most important factor was increasing the certainty of punishment. As a police officer, we know that catching criminals on the spot is really difficult. So our team changed our strategy. Through search warrant, we could have obtained the list of male customers from credit card company. So we called in male customers to police station, and more than 80% of male customers pleaded guilty. After that, we called in the pimps to the station one by one. The more than 500 customers were evidence of this pimps' sex business, right? So more than 20 pimps were jailed. Plus, one brothel was seized by court, and one building owner was jailed. So, the result of applying crime control theory was unbelievable. 30-year-old red light district was successfully eradicated within a year. Now, let's talk about how we can apply this theory into other cases. Application 1, Pareto's principle. For many events, roughly 80% of effect come from 20% of the causes. So statistics are skewed by the minority. As a police officer, we are well aware that some criminals commit crimes again and again. If we can concentrate our power on those career criminals, then the certainty of punishment will increase, right? Application 2, time and location basis. In summer, sex crimes increase. Based on that prediction, if we can concentrate our power on a certain place at a certain time, then efficient and effective crime control can be achieved. Is it clear? Okay, it's time to wrap up. Today, we have learned that there are 3 deterrent values of punishment: swiftness, certainty, and severity. And out of those 3, increasing certainty of punishment is the most effective. And the way of increasing the certainty of punishment is through dynamic concentration. Remember, if we can concentrate our power first row and second row and third row, then the pressure spreads out to the area. Remember? Okay. And thirdly, communicating credible threat is very important. If we can deliver credible threat to criminals, then actual punishment is not necessary. And we can have less crime and less punishment at the same time. Lastly, informal social control, such as participation of citizens, can play a crucial role against the crime. Okay, I hope that today's lesson will help you make effective and efficient crime control strategy after you return to your police station. Thank you very much for listening.
지금부터 5분간 5분 내로 이제 Q&A 세션을 갖겠습니다.
First of all, that was fascinating. I thought I learned a lot from this as well as your materials, and I really believe in the application of this theory. This is a difficult question, and I don't know if you can answer it or if it's appropriate, but you alluded to the fact that there were human rights violations going on against these prostitutes, and you also in your materials alluded to the fact that this didn't exactly solve all of that because many of these women simply dispersed to other areas, and there wasn't job training or anything really applied to that. I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about what you see maybe as next steps or sort of getting to the root or helping out some of the women involved in prostitution and what might be done about that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. And you are asking, first of all, the kind of a human rights issue and displacement effect and the next step of the anti-prostitution law, kind of.
Yeah, or I don't know if it's anti-prostitution law, but what do we do about the issue of women who now seemingly aren't going to find other jobs? There are women here who are still seemingly in a difficult position after these are closed down. So what's the next step, or what do we do about that?
Yes, that's a very controversial question. Among female activist group, there is a controversy. First group argue that the prostitution should be allowed and they need to pay tax. And the other group say that no. In Europe, Northeastern Europe, prostitution was allowed in some countries, but the women were imported from poor country like Romania or very poor country. So they argue that in the world, there is a thing that we cannot buy by money. So it's a kind of very controversial issue. So at that time, we collaborated with a female activist group, and we offered them job opportunities such as making a hair salon and making dress or something like that. So we have collaborated with them very well, and this is kind of hot potato. So I cannot answer right now.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but in the future, I think we police officers should enforce the law that the lawmaker made.
Right.
That's my answer.
No, but I think that was very helpful, just talking about some of the small steps that were made to try to offer alternatives. I was just curious if there was something incorporated. So thank you very much.
We coordinate with the NGO groups at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed that presentation as well. I found it fascinating. One thing about the case study that you mentioned that took me by surprise, you said you gathered all the pimps and then you gathered all the prostitutes and you communicated to them directly that there will be this crackdown, that there will be no more toleration. That was actually surprising, that the pimps and the prostitutes would come voluntarily. Wasn't there any difficulty in getting them to come to this, wherever you had this event?
Yeah, thank you for your question. And you are asking any difficulty in calling them to police station.
Them and actually the citizens too.
Yeah, working class. So in Yucheondong, Daejeon in 2008, there were 67 brothels, and there was an organization. There was the chief of the pimps, and he controlled all the pimps and the working girls. So it was possible. We called in the boss, and the order spread very easily to other working girls and pimps. So kind of, I think if the crime syndicate is organized, it is better to deliver crime credible threat, So it was one of the reasons we could succeed. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your enthusiastic presentation. And I am quite interested in the Pareto's principle. And would you like introduce another example of the application applying the principle?
Yes. Thank you for your question. You are asking the Pareto's principle. And does everybody know what Pareto's principle? Actually, Pareto is an Italian economist, and he discovered that the national wealth is concentrated on 20% of people, and they have 80% of all their wealth of the nation. So he discovered that, and he began to look around other area. And in criminology, it's the same. Some criminals commit crime again and again, and they have many crime histories. But usually, normal people don't crime at all in his lifetime. So that is another area that Pareto's principle can be applied.
예. 시간이 제약적인데 짧게 끝내겠습니다. 예.
발표 잘 들었습니다. 하나만 듣고 싶은 거는 지금 강연을 하시는 상황에서의 불편함은 없으셨는지 좀 많은 움직임들이 있으셨던 것 같아요. 그 부분만 좀.
예. Can I answer in Korean?
Yes.
예. 제가 평소에는 좀 활발히 움직입니다. 더 활발히 움직이는데 오늘 여기 중간에 여기 좀 걸림돌이 있는데 그걸 몰라가지고 좀 그게 약간 불편했고요. 또 제복을 입다 보니까 액션이 좀 부자연스러웠던 게 좀 제약사항이었던 것 같습니다.
고맙습니다.
네. 서준배 교수님 수고하셨습니다. 다음 발표자께서 준비해 주시기 바랍니다.